Hey everybody, welcome back to Elevator Pitch. My name is Joe Ennis, and today I have a super awesome guest. My guest today is Forrest Tuff. Forrest is an entrepreneur, a motivational speaker, a business owner. He's created movies and films. He's in the film industry. It was such a cool episode. Forrest is such a cool guy. A little bit more about Forrest. Forrest is the founder and CEO of One Vision Productions, an award-winning multimedia production company whose clientele ranges from small businesses and government agencies to Fortune 100 corporations. It has been named one of Atlanta's best and brightest companies to work for. Forrest is awesome. He's a professional speaker, as I said, an author, and a business mentor, and he's helped educate others aspiring entrepreneurs through training on how to start up successful businesses of their own and attract clients. Forrest is super cool, and I really enjoyed this episode. He gives a lot of very valuable information when it comes to how the world has been changing in the past year, and a lot of more things are becoming virtual conferences, virtual meetings, and he gives some great advice on how businesses can learn to adapt to the kind of this new way of going about your day, and working from home and doing a lot of things virtually. I really enjoyed what he had to say, and I think there's a lot of very valuable information that a lot of business owners can get out of it so that they don't slow down and they keep moving forward and progressing in content creation, and also staying in front of their clients and still bringing value to their audience. So enjoy the episode. Hey everybody, welcome back to Elevator Pitch. My name is Joe Ennis. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I'm super excited about today's guest, Forrest Tuff. Forrest, thank you so much for joining me today, man.
Hey, my pleasure to be here, Joe.
So Forrest, as I always start every episode, just let us know a little bit about who you are, what you do. Yeah.
So I'll be honest with you. I'm a creative in a nutshell, but that stems out to different things. I started a business over a decade ago, multimedia production. We work with corporations and government agencies, and I'm also a professional speaker and filmmaker. So that's in a nutshell. I kind of work in that creative space.
That's awesome. And anyone that knows me knows that I'm super into the film side of stuff. In high school, I wanted to be an actor really bad. I always told myself that I was going to be the next Spider-Man after Tobey Maguire. I was all pumped, and then they cast whatever his name is, Tom Holland. I was all bummed.
Guys, right?
Yeah, and then my career was over because I didn't care anymore. But today we're going to focus more on the entrepreneurial side. I might ask you a few questions about your film career and everything, but
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about, what you're tackling as an entrepreneur, and what your main focus is, and maybe some of the bigger issues that you see in your field specifically, and what you're focusing on, and what you're doing to try to fix them.
So in the multimedia space, my company's One Vision Productions. One of the things that I've noticed right off the bat just now with this new COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of our work is out in the field. We do a lot of filming, videography, we go out and meet clients, photography, things of that nature. So there's been that challenge initially of just getting back into the field, having a lot of organizations, they canceled conferences, they canceled a lot of things, that they were doing for internal marketing videos. So a lot of the production work, it shifted. So the biggest challenge we had now was how do we still stay in that space and provide a service? So since we weren't coming out, we kind of turned more to the editing side, and we started to focus on what they had internally that we could use to actually produce new content for them and actually create some stuff that didn't require us to come out on the scene, or, still producing, but just finding a different way to do it. So that was one of the biggest challenges with the onset of COVID-19 back in March. And so we've been able to tackle that. We've still been able to keep the clients going. And just in this space, there are a ton of media production companies. That's just something that's happening. There are fresh guys coming out of college, starting businesses every day. So it's like, how do you stay competitive? How do you stay in that market? So that's one of the things that's not necessarily a challenge, but it is something that keeps you on your toes every day to make sure that you're staying cutting edge and trying to be, something that's going to be relevant in these times.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm in the same boat, obviously, because one of my main sources of revenue before all of this was I was kind of a mobile studio where I would go to
Yeah.
offices and business parks and things and record the content that I'm doing. Obviously, I was already doing the editing and stuff, but
Right.
there had to be a huge switch in how I was doing my business, and like you're saying, how you were, doing all of your stuff. Um, what would you say? I want to ask a follow up question to that, specifically when it comes to events and people that, we're having you guys go out and film these big either events or conferences, things like that. Obviously, we've seen how people are doing conferences differently. Mostly they're doing them virtual and things like that. What would you
Mhm.
say to listeners that maybe haven't necessarily gone that route and they kind of feel maybe like they just can't do their conference anymore? What would you
Right.
encourage them, and how would you encourage them? And probably, if you're like me, why would you encourage them to potentially consider doing it virtually?
Well, listen, man, times are different and you have to adapt or you will sink. And I will encourage any company that even though, you enjoy doing things a certain way, you have to embrace what's coming because this is the way things are going to happen. I think even after people are out and about, they're still looking at, hey, I'm able to save a lot of money hosting a conference this way. So now, even with some organizations, they're doing hybrid conferences where they have some people at the facility. They have it where they're socially distanced and spaced, and then they have a virtual meeting also. So they're still able to get the attendance, they're still able to get the revenue because people can pay to attend online. But I think it's something you just have to realize it's going to be the way business is done, and it's best to get in on it now and find out how to overcome some of the adversities with this trend as opposed to just not partaking in it because that's how some things get left behind. That's this pandemic has created us and like I say, in a creative space, but being a business minded person, you have to learn how to innovate. And that means you have to be pliable and you have to think outside of that box and be able to find ways to continue to sustain your business, keep clientele, but continue to put out something great for your company. So I would advise anybody to go virtual. Start small, but don't just say, hey, I'm not getting into this. I'll just wait till they find a cure and then we'll resurge. By that time, there'll be, 50 more companies that have popped up that are taking that space. So I definitely encourage everybody to get involved.
Yeah, I like what you said about, even after this is over, people might not necessarily go back to the way things were. Because
Right.
again, you're realizing that, or they're realizing that, they might be saving a bit of money doing
Mm-hmm.
virtual conferences and things like that. So you might as well just jump in now and learn about that. And it's not just with conferences, too. We're seeing actual offices start to just realize they save a ton of money on office space when
Right.
they all work from home. I think Twitter
That's right.
announced like a few months ago that they're just done, that like every employee is going to be virtual or something. And that's
That's right.
Twitter, and they got tons of money, and they're like, we'll
That's
save
Twitter.
money and everyone's happier. So it's not
You
just
know,
necessarily with conferences, but it's
that's
also
right.
with businesses and how they're behaving. Um,
That's right.
so I do want to kind of go back again to how you guys are making a difference, and how, like you said, there's a lot of social media companies and a lot of just media content creation companies, if you will. What are you guys doing to set yourselves apart? Obviously, we talked a little bit about how you guys are pivoting with how everything has been going this year. But what are you guys doing above and beyond that to set your company apart from another media company?
Well, actually, this kind of went along with the switch. We got out of the brick and mortar years ago and we went virtual. And a lot of people assimilated a successful business with a brick and mortar building. And when we went to that model, it saved us a lot. So we were actually prepared for what happened. We weren't prepared for the pandemic, but we were ready to continue to operate virtual. So some of the things that we've done that I feel separate us, there's a lot of consumer work that needs to get done, but we focused our efforts in the corporate and government space. So we do a lot of government contracting. We work with a lot of agencies, and in that space, it's a different way that you get paid, and it's actually not a space that you can just jump right into. So we've focused a lot on our customer service. That has been a big thing for us. We were recognized by the Better Business Bureau for our customer service, and that's one of the things that we really shift to clients is that it's not just about the production, it's also about the process. because a lot of people can get production and it's what the production company wants to give you, not what you want. At the end of the day, we want to take our slogan at One Vision Production is we envision what you have in mind. So we want to make sure that you being a part of this process, you walk away knowing, hey, this is what I wanted out of my project. And then we give you something better. So for me, and what I envision for my company is we've made sure that we focus on the client. The client is the thing that we want to make sure is happy with this process. And when we finish with the production side, which we specialize in, then it's actually a great feeling. And we know that a lot of times that's how that referral or that word of mouth or, that transfer that, hey, this is a great company to work for. I want you to work with these guys because the experience is going to be top notch. So that's how we've kind of separated ourselves in this space.
I have a follow-up question on that just because I sometimes will have clients and they don't necessarily know what they want, but they kind of have an idea and they'll kind of just be like, make it. And I won't really necessarily know what they want, but I'll kind of have an idea and I'll make something and I'll give it back to them. And sometimes they're like, this is great. But sometimes they're like, I was kind of thinking something different. Is there anything, just because I would love to know, is there anything that you guys do to really pull the idea out of the client enough that you can nail it immediately and so that they get it back and go, this is exactly what I want and more? Is there any steps that you take to be able to do that?
Yeah, no, I completely understand. We've dealt with that before also. But we've come up with a sheet of questions that we like to undergo with our client in our preliminary meeting. And sometimes instead of sending it to them, we'll just, in that meeting, we'll ask them the questions and just kind of mark off check boxes. And just over our experience, we've learned that there's certain things that we know may be an area where someone says, no, you just do it. But we know in the end, they may want to actually have this particular thing done. So we'll ask certain questions and take notes so that when we start on that project or when we begin that process, we have an idea of what they want in that project. Because a lot of times they're saying they don't understand production. But if you talk to them and spend some time, you can pull out that information because sometimes it's a pet project. It's something personal. You can ask someone if they're doing, let's say, a project for, let's say if we're working in real estate and they're like, okay, we want to capture this image. We want it to just look high level, so when we sell our clients. And so we'll show them something. We'll say, which one of these videos do you consider high level? And so now we get an understanding of what they consider high level to be, and also what type of budget they want to be in, because now we can say, okay, this costs this budget, this costs that budget. So it just takes a little more research and, just finding out what that client may or may not know to preemptively ask those questions. So you can you'll have a better time putting together something that they'll actually enjoy in the end.
That's cool. I like that. Because again, that's something that, I assume any content creators that are listening that are in this field can attest. It's sometimes really tough to pull it out of a client of like what they actually want. And then sometimes they'll just be like, you do it. And I'll be like, okay. And I'll do it and give it back. And they'll be like, this is not what I wanted. And I was like, you told me to do it. So yeah, that's fantastic advice. And I definitely will be taking that up and probably trying to implement some of that as well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, Forrest, obviously, I have an idea of probably what you're going to say this next question, but it's always great to get it from someone else other than me every time. Why should people worry, or why should people care about social media or media creation or content creation in today's day and age? Why is the field that you are in, and in a way I am in as well, why should people care about it?
Content creation is everything now. I mean, you have to be visible. There used to be the saying, hey, let other people speak for you. And I think that's still great. But with social media and the advent of so many different opportunities, you have to be your biggest advocate. You have to toot your horn. You got to let people know you're here and you're ready to compete. And it can be daunting. Sometimes it can take you away from, the task of just doing the work, because the work would normally speak for itself. But you have to care about what's important now. People are using social media constantly. It used to be a time where your website was enough. but now they may never get to your website. They may see you on LinkedIn. They may see you on Instagram. They may see you on Twitter or Facebook. So you have to put as much attention into those sites as you do the website. You have to make sure that they see that there's up-to-date content, because nothing is worse than going to a social media page and the last post was 2 years ago. It makes people think, oh, they're not doing anything, so you have to keep it up to date, every now and then. And I know you don't have to do it, all the time, but you have to keep it up to date, because people choose different mediums to look at, and they need to see content on some of that to know that you're still doing things, to drive them to your website.
Well, yeah, and that's one reason why I'm doing this, is I want to be one of those people that's avidly on these social media platforms and standing out. That's one of the reasons that I give all of my guests micro content as well as create it myself and spend the time to do this, is because I want to stand out on social media, because I have a lot of people that follow me on LinkedIn that I know will never go to my website, but they'll see a post on LinkedIn or they'll see a post on Facebook. And if I can, interact with them there and get their attention enough that they'll at least comment and be like, this is cool, and maybe look into it or click my profile, that's enough for me. And that adds up. That adds up a lot over time. I do want to ask a question about that. And, we potentially, again, might give the same answer, but sometimes people have different answers, and I always like to hear the best ones. There are a lot of people that that are small businesses, potentially like myself, that are not in the social media content creation field, but they want to do it, but they just don't necessarily have the budget to hire someone like you or like me. What would you recommend to people like that to get started if they wanted to do it themselves? What are like a few easy steps that you recommend for people to get started on, upping their social media game?
So if you're a small business and you want to get started, I'll tell you about an organization that I think is wonderful first that can help so many of you. It's through the Small Business Administration. It's a resource partner. It's an organization called SCORE Mentors. And what these mentors do is they help small businesses for free, absolutely for free. They have low-cost workshops that talk about social media, taxes, all the things you need to know to be a successful business owner. I would advise that anybody that's starting a business, check out score.org. They are national. They've been around 60 years, and they have mentors that are working professionals and those that are CEOs that are retired executives. That's a great place to start, because a penny saved is a penny earned, right? Now, as far as social media, post something. If you did a project, just post a link to it. Just look at other people's social media sites, see how they're posting. If you want to find out look up companies that are in the same space that you're in. Look at how they post. It's nothing wrong with looking at a model that looks successful and try to emulate it. You don't have to copy it, but just emulate some of the things that they're doing in terms of how they're posting content. That's a great way. When I first started my business, I didn't know exactly how to price. I didn't know what to offer. So I looked at different production companies and I saw different things as I formulated my business model. So I would say that's two things that I would say. Number one, look at SCORE. They have great business advice. They're going to teach you how to operate a business. They're going to have workshops that show you how to work in that social media space, how to correctly manage it. And I would also say network. Go to LinkedIn and truly network with people. One of the things that I feel is, when people connect with you on LinkedIn, a lot of times people just go, oh, thanks for the connection. And that's it. I say follow up with those people. Follow up and say, hey, let's have a 30-minute conversation. Let's see if there's some synergy here, because you never know who can be the person that can help you in an area that you may need growth, or they may know someone that can. So I would say in a nutshell, 1, find an organization that can help you, SCORE. 2, look at business models of other companies that are in your space. And 3, truly network with people so that you can find out how to grow your business organically.
That's fantastic advice. I did not know about SCORE, and I will definitely look them up now, because I can always use more advice. I had a phrase for a while that I always said, which was, any advice you can give me is advice I need. But then I realized that sometimes people's advice is not good. So then I was like, well, not all advice is good. But yeah, I'll definitely make sure to link that in the description above or below this video. If you're an audio listener, it'll be in the description. YouTube, it's below. Everything. Score will be down there. Forrest, thank you so much for being a guest today, man. Let everyone know two more questions for you. Number one, who are your ideal clients? Who do you like to work with? If people wanted to reach out to you, what kind of companies do you like to work with?
So we love working with corporations. We love working on marketing projects. If you're a small business or a major corporation and you have marketing projects, internal videos, those are our ideal clients. And we also work in the government space. So we have licensed drone pilots. That's something else we also offer. But the video production for conferences, for things of that nature, internal videos, working with government agencies, those would be our ideal clients. So if you work in that capacity, feel free to reach out to us. And I can tell you, my company is called One Vision Productions, and our website is One Viz Prod. And I'll tell you, that's ONE, V as in Victor, S as in Sam, P as in Paul, ROD as in David.com, onevizprod.com, or you can just Google One Vision Productions. And if you have a problem there, just look me up, forresttuff.com. That's 2 R's, 2 T's, 2 F's, forresttuff.com.
Awesome. Yeah, that was going to be my last question, which was just how can people reach out to you guys and get in touch? Everyone, make sure, again, all links will be in the description of this video or this podcast if you're listening, audio listeners. Make sure to go reach out to Forrest if you guys need any help. One Vision Productions is going to blow you away. Clearly, they put a ton of work into their content, and they're going to give you exactly what you want, which is awesome. Forrest, last question, just because I'm interested. Any cool, movie production studio stories that you could tell us to leave us with? Anything?
Yeah,
cool
I'm
that's
actually
happening?
finishing up a documentary. We're actually in the process of pitching this documentary. It was a women's basketball team in the 60s, Macon, Georgia. It was an all-black women's team. They won 3 state high school championships, and no one knows about them. So we're doing this documentary because it's really great for this women movement. It's a little bit of Black history, women's history, and also just sports history. So that's a project we're working on. We haven't been in the field so much, but right now we've taken what we've shot in the past and we're put it together, and now we're pitching that to try to get picked up for a feature. So that's an awesome thing. Also find out, hey, how else can I keep moving if I can't do one other thing? So that's what we have going on.
That's awesome. Forrest, thank you so much for being here today, man.
Joe, thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks again to Forrest Tuff. It was such a great episode. If you are listening to this episode on iTunes or Spotify, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you're notified for new episodes. If you're on YouTube, please do the same. There's a subscribe button right above my head. Up in this corner, there's a newest episode button, and right next to me is a recommended button for the recommended episode for you. Thank you guys so much for listening.